Hey everybody, this is JDGaming back today with a deck profile update of my Lightsworn deck. Now, this is a few different reasons going into this. First of all, Lightsworns have always been this really meaningful deck to me because a handful of years back, before I started this channel, I actually met a group of friends, and one of the guys was a diehard Lightsworn fan who happened to have a YouTube channel, and that's one of the big reasons why I started my channel down the line in the first place, was meeting these people, seeing that this was something that I could do. And when I went off to university, then I felt like, might as well try this out, and here I am today. So I thought this was always a meaningful theme to me, obviously because I've played against it a ton, but also because ever since, that guy ended up quitting, well, this is still a cool thing that I have as a memory of that experience. And again, it got me a foot in the door into even considering YouTubing for Yu-Gi-Oh! So there's that aspect. And of course, more recently, the Forbidden and Limited list took away our beloved Grass Looks Greener in the TCG. So since we can't leverage that now, I thought it'd be fun to go kind of to the grassroots of Lightsworns, take a look at a 40 card variant that looks more into Judgment Dragon and BLS, and we can see what we can do from there. The coolest thing about this strategy, I feel, is that a lot of the stuff you can play around with. That's the reason why we had Dino variants and Zombie variants and all these other things mashed together in the 60 cards. A lot of things work with the Lightsworn core. And so this is just my take on it, and so I will be doing, as always, a Let's Build, so you can see my reasonings for why things are in here, what I'm trying to accomplish as I do that, and then you can always think about what other different things you've seen or might be trying to consider on your own that fit well with this strategy. You could play around with that as well. If you just want to see the alphabetical profile, that's at the end as always. You can click the timestamp in the description box down below. That'll take you right to the end. And if you have any questions remaining after that, you can check out the middle of the video where hopefully I explain all of that in sufficient detail. But it is what it is. It's Lightsworn. So without further ado, let's build Lightsworns. The first step when making any deck is to really make sure you have an idea of what your deck is trying to do and to make a core that supports those goals. And in this type of a situation where we have Lightsworns potentially being used for so many different grave-oriented strategies, we have to ask the question, to JD or not to JD? And of course, in this build, we are playing 3 copies of Judgment Dragon, and there are a few reasons that I think this is a pretty good card at the moment. So obviously, it's our 3K beater. We can drop it for free as long as we have 4 or more Lightsworns with different names in our graveyard, which is a pretty easy situation that you're going to see happen very quickly, usually within a turn, if not a couple turns. And the great thing with this is that means we're able to put out a huge boss monster that doesn't rely on the extra deck. And that's important because if you're playing against nightmares that extra link you, or against a floodgate that prevents you from accessing your extra deck or whatever, you're able to still fight back using Judgment Dragon, who of course has the blow up the entire field effect that can also help you soften the board, and then just put enough attack power on the field, honestly, to just win from there. So definitely do like Judgment Dragon for that, but because of this card, we're going to have to plan on making sure we hit those 4 different Lightsworn names as quickly as possible, and we have to make sure we draw Judgment Dragon in the first place, which would be a lot of the reasons that the really competitive players tend not to want to play Judgment Dragon, but we'll get there. So we start off obviously with 3 copies of our Rhoda. Charge of the Light Brigade is awesome for kickstarting our deck and getting us whatever card we need at the time. 3 of those as kind of our power spells, and on top of that, I also like playing 3 copies of Solar Recharge. And the idea here is this allows us to maximize on a lot of the Lightsworns in the core. So we'll play 3 of the following Lightsworns, and then that basically means if you draw 1, great, you can use it. If you draw multiple, then just get rid of it, and you'll be able to send it to the grave as another name, draw 2, mill 2 more, which will help put us towards JD. And the coolest thing about Solar Recharge is that draw 2 allows us to get closer and closer to Judgment Dragon, because whereas Charge of the Light Brigade is awesome with the Lightsworns, doesn't directly help us with JD in terms of getting him to our hand, and so Solar Recharge is a nice way of still doing that. And then I like playing this classic pair of 3 copies of Lumina Lightsworn Summoner and 3 copies of Raiden Hand of the Lightsworn. So these guys are of course classics. So Raiden is something that a lot of people like playing a pair of, and that lets them go, kickstart their mills, mill 2 cards from the top, and then in the end phase potentially mill 2 more. But the cool thing about it is, again, we're playing 3 Solar Recharge anyway, so if you have at least 1, that's awesome. You could go ahead and have this tuner monster, you can mill some more cards, which is always fun. And then in tandem with Lumina, who lets you get rid of additional dead Lightsworns you don't want anyway, in order to summon back Raiden for a quick level 7 synchro, or, you know, Link monster. There are a lot of applications with these guys, so I still really enjoy playing these guys as a very powerful, consistent level 7 engine that also lets us go and get rid of extra Lightsworns that we may not need in our hands. So definitely like playing these guys. And then the last card in our main core here is 3 copies of Wolf Lightsworn Beasts, and so this is obviously a third type for Curious. I'll get to Curious in a bit later in the video, because we'll need a little bit more support to make sure we can consistently summon that card. But Wolf is just phenomenal in every single way. 2100 attack, light level 4, different type from all the others, very easy to play. And again, with 3 copies of Solar Recharge and Lumina, you're never worried about drawing this guy even in the 40 card variant, so definitely make sure you play 3 of these guys to maximize your chance of seeing him with your insane number of mills. With our primary core of Lightsworn monsters out of the way, it's time to look at some of the supporting casts that will help us reach our goal of bringing out Judgment Dragon as quickly and consistently as possible. And to start off, I like playing 3 copies of Lumina Twilightsworn Shaman. So this isn't going to be a full-on Twilightsworn build, but I really do like this variation of Lumina for her free ability. If you've not seen this card, because you haven't been keeping up with Code of the Duelist when Link era started, basically it says once per turn you can banish a Lightsworn from your hand or graveyard. Notice that graveyard part makes this effect potentially free, and you're able to target one of your monsters, your Lightsworn monsters, and then special summon it as long as it's not another copy of this card here. Once per turn, also, you can go and copy another Lightsworn monster's effect. Essentially, when it mills or uses any of its effects, it could even be Lumina reviving something. You go and mill 3 cards thanks to Twilightsworn Shaman, which is a pretty cool duplication type of a skill. So the main thing with this is you need to have something already banished that is legal for you to activate Lumina Twilightsworn Shaman in the first place. But if that has been met, which is going to be very easy with some of the other support that we'll be playing, you're able to go ahead and bring out a free monster. That could be a Raiden for a free synchro summon. It could be a Lumina to continue summoning out more cards and go for a big Link monster. Lots of cool things are possible thanks to Lumina Twilightsworn Shaman. And as you know from the intro to the video, we're going to be playing Blackluster Soldier, so we're going to need some dark monsters anyway, and she fits the bill quite nicely for that as well. And to help us start and make sure we have one of our Lightsworns banished, I like playing a pair of March of the Dark Brigade. So this is another Twilightsworn support card that actually goes back and has backwards compatibility with all of our old Lightsworns. Lets you target a Lightsworn in your graveyard that has a level and add it to your hand. Then banish a number of cards from the top of your deck equal to the original level of that monster in your hand. And you can only activate one of these per turn. So you realistically could cut this down to 1 if you want to make sure it's always live, because it does have that hard cap. But I figured in a 40 card deck where you're milling a ton, chances are you're going to hit one of these by milling before you draw a lot of the time. So I just wanted to make sure I do see this thing enough. Basically, this lets you go and not only set up for Lumina, because you're going to be playing a ton of Lightsworns, you're probably going to hit 1, even if you mill only 3 or hit 4. But on top of that, this lets you go, and in the next section, all of these one of Lightsworns we'll discuss, lets you go and not only add them from your deck to your hand with charge, but if you've already milled them or discarded them, add them to your hand when you need. And I like that reverse toolboxing power for March of the Dark Brigade. So that's basically where we're starting off here. Some other Lightsworn names I like playing are Felis, Lightsworn Archer, which is basically another version of Wolf, who also has the ability to kill monsters by tributing her off. She only summons herself off of monster effects, but since you're able to go and mill with so many cards like Minerva in this deck anyway, and we also have all the discard outlets, and you can even bring her back with Luminas, then she ends up becoming very playable and is a different name for JD. Lila's a classic who of course lets us go and get rid of back row, field spells, whatever we need to, and she does have the classic just mill 3 of the end phase effect, which is at least a decent number. It's better than Raiden's 2 in the end phase. We have Minerva, who ends up getting hit just to get you another free card. Sometimes you're able to use that other effect, which will let you add a dragon to your hand, because the next section of this, we'll talk about some dragon things that we play in here. But mainly it's in here is just another monster where it's another name, you discard her or you mill her, and then you get another free card. And then the last card here is Aaron, Lightsworn Monk, who basically combos nicely with our 3 copies of Fairy Tale Snow, because Fairy Tale Snow, if you remember, is going to let you summon her It's surprising how a lot of people didn't originally realize this, but you know, it's just Snow White and the 7 Dwarves, right? So you banish your 7 cards, which is very easy to do with your Lightsworn monsters, and if you do, you flip a monster on the field face down by summoning this guy, and if you do, then Aaron can go and kick that thing right back to the deck, which is pretty darn cool. 4 different Lightsworns really just helps you get to your JD even more consistently. It gives you more things to hit off of Minerva the Xyz, you know, the Exalted Lightsworn, which would let you go ahead and draw more cards or destroy more cards. And then 𝗣𝗇𝖑𝖊𝖓𝐿. Why 3 copies of this thing in a 40 card deck? Basically because this thing isn't even limited to once per turn. Lightsworns still have a ton of milling power, and I want to make sure I see this thing every single game, whether or not it's milled. So yeah, you could cut down on it, but I still like playing the 3, even in a 40 card game, so you know, fight me. And then just a miscellaneous thing here, 1 Trick Clown, because this doesn't really fit with the remaining part of the deck. This is literally just a 1 of I threw in here, obviously because of its once per turn coming back ability, but it's also a spellcaster like 𝗣𝗇𝖑𝖊𝖓 Snow here. So you're probably realizing, all right, so we got Luminas of both types are spellcasters, Trick Clown's a spellcaster, and 𝗣𝗇𝖑𝖊𝖓 Snow's a spellcaster. So how do we summon Curious Lightsworn Dominion? Well, the main way we summon this thing is by using some other types, like the dragons that we'll get to in just a second. If you've never seen this card, let me briefly talk about it. Link 3 that needs 3 monsters of the same attribute. In this deck, mainly it's going to be light, but with different types. So again, Spellcaster Warrior, very easy to do. And then we need a 3rd type, so we'll get to dragons in just a second here. You could also do Beast Warrior off of the wolves or off of Felis. But the reason you want to play this thing is, upon summon, it's a Foolish Burial for any card in your deck. It could be a spell, trap, or monster, which is pretty awesome. That lets you yard your Snow consistently or get a wolf or whatever else you need in that situation. And then when something goes from your deck to the graveyard, its second effect kicks in, milling 3 cards from your deck, which is awesome in this strategy because that gets you more Lightsworn names in your graveyard and triggers more free advantage. And as if that weren't enough, not only does it point to 2 of your zones and have a respectable 2400 attack, but if this thing leaves the field because of your opponent, then you're able to go ahead and recycle any card in your graveyard to your hand. So that could be like a Judgment Dragon to your hand. If you wanted to grab, you know, a Soul Charge or something, then you could do that. I decided not to play Soul Charge in this particular build because you're basically able to win so quickly off of this strategy that I didn't want to cut myself off of life points and the ability to attack. It's just so aggressive, but you know, you're able to do a lot of things with Curious, and we gotta get to him first though. So I like playing 2 copies of Eclipse Wyvern, so I went kind of flip-flop between 2 of these and 1 Trick Clown versus 2 Trick Clown and 1 of these. Ultimately settled on this. Basically, this is the happy medium between Judgment Dragon and this. So anytime this thing hits the graveyard, even as an Xyz material or something else that, you know, normally wouldn't count as being sent from the field, it's just you can mill it or anything, you're able to go ahead and banish a level 7 or higher dragon monster from your deck, and then if this is banished from your graveyard, you add the banished monster from this effect to your hand. So long-winded way of saying, hits the grave, banish JD, leaves the grave, add JD. And the main reason I really like this is not only do you hit this thing more easily and access JD and basically protect it until you can get this thing out of the grave with its effect. You know, you have all these mills and you're able to hit this for the JD. You're also able to draw into this, and then you could discard for Lumina. You still gain its effect. You can normal summon this. That's a dragon level 4 light monster, so you can use it for all your plays, including Curious. So very versatile card in this build. So I really liked this as the additional type, and that's why we ultimately played 2 of these things, even though we're playing just 3 JDs. Realistically, the chance of you hitting all your JDs and your Eclipse Wyverns, or making it so that your Eclipse Wyverns aren't live, is pretty low. I mean, if you end up getting a BLS on top of your JD, you probably won anyway, and Eclipse Wyvern is going to get you to that situation. Some additional dragons. I like playing 2 copies each of Black Dragon Collapse Serpent and White Dragon Wyver Burster. So these are our baby Chaos Dragons. You need to banish a monster of the opposite attribute from your graveyard to summon them. Decent 1800, 1700 attack points, and then reverse defense points. These guys are also dragons we can drop to the field for free. If you're using Wyver Burster, you're able to go for Curious off of it, which is another bonus. And then anytime they hit the graveyard from the field, you can recur another copy of it from your deck to your hand, like the opposite copy. And the reason this is so good, I always loved playing this in synchro variants of the deck, but now we have Link monsters. So you're able to go and banish any Lightsworn to summon Collapse Serpent, use it for a Link summon, and then bring Wyver Burster to your hand, banish the Collapse Serpent to bring out the Wyvern Burster, and so on. And then the Black Dragon also gives you another way of getting rid of the Eclipse Wyvern on top of your BLS to make sure that you're able to go ahead and claim Judgment Dragon when you need it. So that's why I like those guys. And then the last card in the main deck, believe it or not, we're already here, is the 3 copies of Blackluster Soldier. Not much to say here other than dropping a 3000 beater who could potentially attack twice is still absolutely powerful. And when you're able to get rid of Eclipse Wyvern to add JD and then drop JD, you know, if you had any other monsters or you just use your normal summon or other special summons or whatever that turn, it's so easy to end a game just by dropping this guy. So definitely a powerful card. I figured if you're playing 3 boss monsters, and that's pretty good, and you have to work to draw him out, why not just play 6 boss monsters, and now you have 2 alternative ways to make sure that you win the game with powerful cards that aren't even in your extra deck. So that's that. And now we will talk about the remaining 14 cards that are not named Curious, Lightsworn Dominion. So time to finish out that extra. So Minerva obviously is in here. I only play one of this thing because realistically with her own protection effect of retaliating by destroying your opponent's cards for all the different Lightsworns that you hit off of its effect, it's just a powerful one of, like, you don't ever really get to the point in the game where you need to. If you really want, you could play a second copy, but I don't know. I've never really needed the second copy of this thing, so I just play the one. It's another Lightsworn name, gets you more Lightsworn names, and it takes advantage of all the extra Lightsworn names. And then some of the other rank 4 monsters, I play an Abyss Dweller to deal with the graveyard, a Tornado Dragon to deal with spells and traps, and then the Utopia package to deal with any monsters that are annoying, which basically covers the full gamut, right? So grave, spell and traps, monsters is the way I like to see this. And yeah, that pretty much also makes it so that Minerva is just, you know, your main thing if you need another card. It's not so much like a power play or anything, it's just like, it's its own thing. And then because we play 3 copies each of both Luminas, I like playing these guys here. So Phantom Knights of Breaksword is awesome because it's a dark monster, which helps you make your chaos summons, and it's able to get rid of, you know, free cards that you get like Trick Clown or Wolf or Felis or, you know, Fairy Tale Snow, just so many things you can get rid of, and then you'll be able to use Breaksword's effect to get rid of things, and then in the worst case situation, just kill him and he ends up in the graveyard as the dark monster for a follow-up chaos summon, and he's able to soften your opponent's board in the process. Because you have the Luminas as free cards essentially to make these guys, I really do like them. And Levier is in here because this helps you get extra mileage out of Lumina Twilightsworn Shaman, where if you have anything else that's banished, or you banish a bunch of stuff with snow, you can basically get any of them back using the Levier, which you can make pretty much for free off of your Luminas anyway. So definitely like those rank 3s. And then for our Synchro monsters, I basically wanted to focus on level 7s for the most part, because we have our Lumina play is going to get us Raiden, which is our main tuner, and then that'll let us do everything that we need to. So Michael is obvious. It's another Lightsworn name, can get rid of things permanently by banishing. Black Rose Dragon can go and blow up the entire board, and then F.A. Dawn Dragster is the new card here. Pretty much this is a generic level 7 synchro that starts with no attack, but its attack points becomes 300 times its level, so it starts off with 2100 attack, not bad. It inflicts piercing damage, so that's a little bonus. You can end games through random tokens or something, but the big thing is anytime your opponent activates a spell or trap once per turn, you can reduce this card's level by 2 to negate that card and destroy it. So now this is a 2000 defense if you don't want to deal with fluctuating attack points and levels here. It's a 2000 defense wall that you can Shien your opponent with once per turn, and since you have so many 1 card or 2 card easy access level 7 synchro plays in this strategy, you want to make sure you flesh out this part of the extra, and so I figured, why not this? Get rid of things already on the board, prevent stuff that's on the board, and then, you know, also get rid of stuff that's on the board, but it's a Lightsworn, so that's what we do there. And then, while we do focus on those guys, I do like playing one each of Cypher Lord Omega and Scarlight Red Dragon Archery, and that's what this card is, and basically, get rid of things already on the board here, and then an annoying monster that's hard to get rid of. That's the way I see it. Very easy to access still because you have Raiden as your 4 and then so many free level 4 monsters. And then the last 2 cards are going to be these Link 4s. So kind of weird, right? You know, a lot of people are like, why aren't you just playing a full Link deck? Well, honestly, I didn't want to use these things for like, I guess you could play like Nightmares or something in this strategy, but I wanted to go more with JD and all that stuff, and making use of Lumina and all those plays ended up getting me this type of a strategy where pretty much, you know, if you're able to go for Borreload Dragon, it's powerful and worth it. If you're able to go for Saryuja, it's powerful and worth it. But I kind of liked these economic plays because the Synchronic Seas monsters don't take a ton of cards, but they still get you a lot of power. So rather than just going for spam and then, you know, trying to use up my entire extra deck for that, I just wanted a toolbox of nice plays because my goal is to drop the BLS and JD anyway. And so this is just a slightly different take. If you're not playing Judgment Dragon, if you're not playing BLS, then yes, definitely make sure you flesh out your main deck or your extra deck more with cards that supplement that main deck, and then, you know, you can link off more. But in this particular build, I think these power plays are a decent way to go. If you watched the video in its entirety, thanks! Hopefully you guys enjoyed seeing this version of Lightsworns as much as I did putting it together, and of course, using it as an excuse to play the lottery deck of Yu-Gi-Oh! So we'll start off with the main deck here. We got double Black Dragon Collapse Serpent, triple BLS Envoy of the Beginning, double Eclipse Wyvern, Lone Aaron, triple Fairy Tale Snow, a single Felis, triple JD, then we got triple Lumina of each variety, so that's both Lightsworn Summoner and Twilightsworn Shaman. And then from there we get Lone Lila, single Minerva, Performage Trick Clown, and then we have triple Raiden, Hand of the Lightsworn, double White Dragon Wyverburster, and triple Wolf Lightsworn Beast. Then we have 8 power spells in triple Charge of the Light Brigade, double March of the Dark Brigade, and triple Solar Recharge, and that of course is our 40 card main deck. And then from there, our extra deck is going to have just Curious at link 3, Borreload and Saryuja at link 4. That's it. A bit unusual, but, you know, it is what it is. And then for our 7s, we have Black Rose Dragon, F.A. Dawn Dragster, and Michael the Arc Lightsworn. And then we have for 8s, Cyframe Lord Omega and Scarlet Red Dragon Archfiend. Then for our Xyz monsters, we have rank 3s in Levier the Sea Dragon and the Phantom Knights of Breaksword. Then generic 4s in Abyss Dweller, Minerva, Tornado Dragon, and the Utopia the Lightning package. That's the end of this video, but if you'd like to see more of this series, you can click the annotation on the right, or you can see the last video I did by clicking the one on the left. If you enjoyed, I encourage you guys to leave a like and share it with others you think who may enjoy it as well. And if you'd really like to see more updates, then subscribe to JDGaming for more Yu-Gi-Oh videos. Thanks guys, this is JDGaming, hope you guys enjoyed as always, and I'll see you guys next time.